Hi there, Mark here. Welcome to part 4 of my XV-01 rally car build. Got Rob on the camera.
Hiya.
And we're going to try and put this thing together. So we've got to step 18. We've just opened screw bag D. I've got out the parts that I need for step 18. You've got the countersunk screws, you've got 2 ordinary 8mm screws. You've got 2 very slim lock nuts and some spacer parts here. This is to hold the rear suspension onto the chassis. Right, what I'm going to do first is put the lock nuts in place. Make sure that the nylon part is facing upwards, and you're going to try and get them into these slots. Okay, then we need these parts NN14. You've got the little protrusion that sticks into the hole. Difficult to see there what's going on. And we hold that into place with, oh, it's a 6mm screw, not an 8mm screw. Okay, so those nuts there will be for holding the battery tray on. 2 screws for the battery tray, and they're just held in by those brackets. Okay, so now we're going to fit these spacers, NN10s, going into there. And JJ1 and JJ2. Which don't slot into place, they do fall out. I'm going to screw this one in now using the countersunk screws from underneath. That's it, fully tighten those up now, they're nice and flush. We're ready to put the lower suspension arms on. Okay, so I've already put the ball joints in, the BB8s. Be very careful, it shows you here in the diagram how to line these up. Basically you're using, there's 3 holes each side, they're the ones that are the furthest away from the inside, the set of holes, and use the inside hole. Right, what we need to do now is to get the shafts into place with the spacers on. So if I do this one first, the shaft in, put one of these NN2s on the back, then an NN23 spacer in the front, and another one of the little hollow caps, the NN2, like so. And then that will go into that hole. Okay, don't fall off. Same again with this side. Again, put that into the mount. Then we need JJ3 and spacer NN25. Put the spacer down over the holes. And then our JJ3. Try and fit those carefully into place. Now we need to hold JJ3 with 2 countersunk screws. Okay, they're tight now. So what I've just missed there is these 2 tiny BC3, they're like the flathead screws that need to go in the back here on the inside, and that's going to stop the shaft from coming out of the holes. Okay, so those are all finished. That's 19 done. On to step 20, which is fitting the rear axles. So for the rear axles, we need to put this NN27 on the top there. using the two 10mm screws, 3mm screws. Okay, and then I'm going to put 12mm screw, the longest screw, through the hole and screw on the ball connector. So I'm just going to tighten these up and then do the same with the other side. So that's the two finished with the dust covers on. Put those like they are in the plan. We've just got to put the drive shafts on. These are longer than the fronts. Put the bearing in place and put in there. Before we do, there's one more part, which is this BA23. It's this pinky coloured neoprene spacer. You just need to cut through that. It says in half. Done that with a craft knife. It's a bit fiddly. And then put that into the end of the cup. And I think that again it's to cushion the end of the drive shaft, or the dog bone, whichever you want to call it. There we go. They may fall out. I have to be careful of that. Put the bearing on and push it through from the inside. So that's the rear axles finished. On to step 21. Okay, now we're going to attach the rear gearbox, and to do that we need to put the belt on. You're going to need 4 countersunk 6mm screws, and you're going to need a longer 10mm one, which will go through a higher part of the chassis, which we'll see in a sec. But let's get the belt fitted over the front pulley. I don't think they're directional. I did check, I can't see any signs, so I think the belt can go on any way round. I hope so anyway. Put it through the front, sorry, the rear gearbox, and then hopefully this should drop into place. There we go. Satisfying click. Yeah, belt's on. It's a bit loose. We'll need to put a bit of tension on that, but let's see once we've put the screws in. So it's the 4 shorter countersinks into those there, and if you look down into the battery tray there, that one there, we're going to put in the longer 10mm screw. Okay, so those are all nicely fixed in now. That's the rear attached. So we're going to move straight on to step 22, which it says is attaching the rear axles, which basically we've got here. We need 2 spacers there, which are these NN19s that are going to fit on the bottom link. I've already pre-made up the top suspension links. Now, another word of warning with these, we have had a nightmare, haven't we, Rob?
We have.
Trying to get these in. That basically there's no way I could screw these up to the required distance to make it short enough. They just wouldn't screw in. So I ended up again with the right hand thread, is use a standard tapped in, and then that was able to screw in. The other side I had to basically get them a drill and ream out slightly this part of the ball end, because it was just too tight to get the rods in. So there you go, word of warning, you're going to have to do some work with these. I physically couldn't get them tightened up so they were short enough. So there's another little issue with the kit, but now managed to get them with a bit of tapping and reaming to the right length. So hopefully now we can attach them to the rear suspension. So first thing we're going to do is put the bottom links in. We already put the screw in the one end to stop the pin coming out, which is BC15. So we're going to need that. We're going to need an axle. It's going to go in there. Put that into the drive cup. Put that somewhere near. What we need to do is get, might be a bit fiddly, to get this spacer in the gap. In fact, what I might do actually, just put this through, put the spacer on, and then try and jiggle this in. There we go. Push it right the way in, then the drive shaft, which I nicely forgot before. Okay, and then to finish that off, we need to put BC3, little flat-headed crosshead, to hold that bottom shaft in, bottom pin. Then take our top suspension arm, make sure we've got the right one. So that'll go onto there and onto there. So clip it onto the ball and same push, and that's the rear suspension done, Rob. Well done.
Cool.
Right, rather than just repeat all that, obviously it's just the same but opposite on this side. I'll just quickly do that now. Step 23, we're going to be fitting the covers to the belt drive. So there's 3 of them. This one goes at the bottom, this one goes in front of that, and then you've got the main cover. So the first thing it says to do here is cut 3mm off this piece of the cover there. So I'm just going to get my cutters and just snip off about 3mm of it. It's gone flying off, but that's somewhere near. So we're going to get this part, which is NM1, and this, difficult to see, Rob, goes onto that mount there. We need to screw into that mount, so we need to try and get that in. There we go, and there's a 10mm screw. Okay, so that's that. It's quite tricky to do that one up because you're at an angle, but that's done now. I've pre-tensioned the belt, put a little bit of tension on by moving this the tensioner down slightly. It's not pressing on too hard. We'll have to do a test run, see if that's tight enough. It doesn't say how much tension to put on in the manual, but we'll have this is a starting point anyway. Okay, the next thing we need to do now is get the main belt cover, put it in at the front, line up the holes, and that one fits in, is held in by 2 countersunk screws from underneath. And last but not least, we've got the one that we've just trimmed down. This needs to fit over this last section. Okay, it seems to be clicked into place. Looks like it's lined up. So we just put the last, it's a 6mm crosshead screw in. So that's the cover fitted. What we need to do now is move on to the next step. Step 24, we've got to build the shocks. So we're going to build 4 shocks now. I'll just show you building the one. Obviously the others will be exactly the same. So we're going to start off with the shaft there, which is a BD6. I've already put the one circlip on. We need the piston with 2 holes. We can fine tune it later, but we'll just need to set up a reference point and just do it as it says in instructions for now. I need to get the other circlip there and clip it onto the top and try not to lose the circlip across my shed. Easier said than done. Okay, you should hear a click when it's gone all the way in. Okay, that's okay. We get the shock body. We need to put 2 of the orange O-rings in there. I'm just going to put a tiny blob of oil, the shock oil, onto that to help the pin go through the shaft. This is the hard damper oil. I've checked the colours. This is 900 weight oil, so it is fairly thick stuff really. Okay, after that's been done, let's just screw the cap onto that. which is a Q1. I'm not going to tighten it all the way because first I'm going to put through the shaft. Again, it says put a little bit of oil on there, just so that we don't damage those O-rings as it goes through. And carefully push it through. Let's get rid of the excess oil because we're going to put the bottom mount onto that. Okay, that's moving. Okay, tighten that up. And screw on V1, which is the shorter of the two bottom shock mounts. I always do this up hand tight. Don't think you really need to go mad. It does say hold it with pliers, but I think finger tight is enough. There we go. So I'll just turn over the page. Yep, that's all that step done. On to 20, which is basically we need to fill it up with the oil, make sure all the bubbles come out, and put the green cap on the top, and then tighten up the final part of the shock. Okay, so I'm just going to finish this one and build the other four. So that's the shocks built up. Just finishing this one by showing you, we just put the spring on like so. Got this bottom piece, just holds the spring in. What we found out, it says put these, I think it's V7, the medium size spacer for the front shocks, because obviously the weight of the motor at the front needs a little bit more pre-tension, but with nothing on at all, and we can see that there is movement. And what we found, Rob and I, is that these bottom caps can come off, can't they?
They can, yeah.
If it's loose like that. So what I recommend is to get rid of that slack, is put one of the thinner ones in the spacer. It just about gets rid of, there's a tiny little bit left, but might need to change that for the thicker one anyway. So that's what I'm going to put on the rears to stop the springs flapping about, and put the V7, I think it is, on the fronts. So that all that remains now to finish this step, we've got to 26, is to clip them onto the car. So the ones that I've got the thicker spacers in should just pop onto these. Nice click, quite a tight squeeze. There's one. I'll just speed up fitting the rest of them on. Right, all fitted. I've just had a quick feel of it, and you can see there, for some very short shocks, there's actually quite a lot of suspension travel. That's very impressive. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how it goes. So that's the end of our bag D. So we're going to finish the end of this build section now. This is part 4 over. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you on part 5.
See ya.